All right, you guys, we have a returning guest for you guys. We are so excited to dive into all things postseason with Savilia. Thank you so much for joining us again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Where are you tuning in from today?
I'm currently in Northern California in my hometown. So yeah, Cole, my boyfriend, and I are based here for a few weeks, kind of trying to escape winter and find some sunshine to start
Yeah.
the base season again.
Awesome. So many of our guests know our Two Truths and a Lie. We've had Savilia on before we started doing our Two Truths and a Lie. So this is actually her first time doing the Two Truths and a Lie. So this should be new for our listeners. And we will link her first episode as well in the show notes for people to go back if they missed that one. We talked a lot about, goodness, pre-training nutrition, post-training, during, all of that stuff in that episode. So if you guys want to check that out, go ahead and check the show notes for that. But why don't you go ahead and break down your Two Truths and Lie for us, Vilia?
Okay. Oh my gosh. All right. This was so hard to think about, but anyway, the so I pierced my own ears
Ooh,
actually, and I was homeschooled.
okay.
And I love roller coasters.
Okay. All right. Um, I'm trying to remember tidbits from our initial conversation. I feel like I was tempted to pierce my own ears as a kid, so I don't put that past you. And I feel like liking mountain biking might go hand in hand with roller coasters. So I'm tempted to say the homeschooling was or is a lie, but that's what I'll go with. Don't tell me the answer. We will reveal it for the listeners at the end of the episode here. So folks, stay tuned. But to dive into things, we can dive in a little bit, kind of give the listeners a little bit of a recap of how you got into passion for cycling and where you are, but definitely would love to dive into how your 2023 season has been and what's coming up in 2024.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, a little background. I grew up in a really small town in Northern California called Inverness. And in our last episode, I think we realized we were actually really close to each other,
Yes.
which was funny. But yeah, I have two older brothers, and growing up, gosh, we were just ripping around on old rusty hand-me-down bikes, building super sketchy jumps and little, balance beam boards in our backyard. And that's how I kind of got into riding. I had a really outdoorsy family. We were always doing something outside, whether it's biking or hiking or climbing trees or whatever. And then I first started racing through NICA. I was really fortunate to have a really strong NICA program up here in Northern California
Yeah.
and started racing in high school through that. And then through just a series of small steps, I kind of started my trajectory through the sport. And it was not linear whatsoever. And it went in a lot of directions I never would have imagined to get to where I am now. But yeah, here I am. I'm racing now for a French team on the World Cup circuit, and I'm 24. So I've been doing this for, yeah, quite a few years.
Wow. That's awesome. And what's the name of the French team that you're with?
Yeah, so I race for Rockrider Ford Racing.
That was one of our questions that we got asked. I might as well just
Oh,
dive right
cool.
into that one,
Yeah, do it.
which is kind of a funny one. The person said, which is faster, a Rock Rider ridden by Savilia or a Ford Mustang driven by Savilia?
I don't know.
Do you drive fast car? Is that one of your side?
No, I was in I did a commercial with Ford in a
Oh, really?
Mustang. So there's this video circulating around, and everyone thinks I drive the Mustang fast, but in reality they had a separate actor for all the fast bits where they
Oh my
were
goodness.
doing trick driving. So that wasn't.
Wow. So the stunt driver. That's funny. Well, very cool. So Rock Rider's the name. Is that a type of bike too? A Rock Rider?
Yeah, so
Oh, okay.
Rockrider is the bike brand,
Mm,
and it's a brand of Decathlon, which is a really large
Mm,
sporting goods company in Europe. It's not
okay.
so well known in the US. So it was funny when I joined the team and announced it. I had a few like US people ask, like, so what bike are you on? And
Yeah.
like Rockrider. But yeah, it's
Awesome.
funny. You don't see many of them in the US here.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out on your gram next time I see a post come up. So let's see, with the 2023 race season, tell us kind of what has that been like for you? What kind of were your major races, or was there any kind of like key moments that you really enjoyed or that were really challenging for you in this last year?
Yeah, so 2023, this season was a really big season for me. My first year racing for a full World Cup team,
Mm,
and first time running a full cup calendar. So yeah, a lot of new things for me, and I think this kind of dives into the next question of, the challenges and stuff I faced this season. And one of the big ones was just like so much new, which
mm,
was good and also challenging. I was always constantly kind of trying to navigate through it and learn, new bikes, new equipment, new team structure, spending a lot more time in Europe.
mm,
And with just racing a full World Cup calendar, these races are, from May to October, and they span all over Europe, some in
wow.
North America with like large gaps in between. So it's kind of finding that balance of, living in Europe and coming back to the US and, finding that balance with like your family and your friends and yeah,
Wow.
also being a pro athlete and living in a foreign country. So
Yeah.
um yeah, it was a big season, and I think one of the biggest highlights for me was later in the season
Mm,
where I had my first podium at an elite World Cup in Leger,
nice.
France. So yeah, that was like a very big milestone in my career that I think I was, like I had the goal of, but I didn't. It's just one of those things that is like always a dream, but when it happens, I didn't really, I guess I didn't really expect it to happen there. It wasn't a course where I was like, oh, this is like my
Mm,
course.
mm-hmm.
And I just didn't really, you don't know when that's going to happen. But I guess all the more special. So that was definitely a really big moment of the season. And yeah.
Awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about that course and that race itself that you podiumed with? Like, how long was it? What type of terrain are we talking about for that event?
Yeah. So it's not at too much elevation, maybe 3 or 4,000 feet. The course is like really man-made, and there's a
Mm,
lot of climbing. The climbs are long. I mean, for a cross-country World Cup course, it's like between like 2 and 3 minute climbs,
mm-hmm,
which is pretty long.
mm-hmm,
And I never have really seen myself as like a climber. And it was pretty man-made, like not super technical. It was really hot and dry, so that kind of it wasn't like it was muddy and slick, and of course, and just a very physical track. So yeah, not one that I would really see like my strengths in, but I think I was coming into it with really good form, really good confidence after a good world championships and my first top 10 in Andorra. So I was kind of
nice.
slowly like making the steps.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, just the combination of the confidence, the fitness, and the experience really kind of all wrapped up to help me reach that.
That's great. And so, what was the final race duration time for that? Or do they do
So
laps?
yeah, so with the cross country, it's supposed to be 90 minutes. So it's
Mm,
normally around the 90-minute mark. And we race a course that is usually, I want to say, like 3 kilometers. And we do 5, 6, or 7 laps on it. So
mm-hmm.
however many they determine, however many we're going to do to meet that time mark.
Okay. And with a course like that, tell us a little bit about like nutrition and hydration. If you're out there for 90 minutes, are you grabbing from like a the table, a handout? Are you carrying everything on your person? What is that like?
Yeah, for sure. So in these courses, there's one feed zone that normally, yeah, now they changed it. This year is the first time where you only hit the feed zone one time per lap. In the past, you've been able to, there's been two on track. So that's kind of
Okay.
changed the strategy of the racers a bit, because you have to
Mm-hmm.
think about, you know, having what you need for that amount of time, or if you even
Right.
want to go and grab water or gel or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Heat definitely plays a factor in these races, and it's been really important to like focus on strategies beforehand. So yeah, like a lot of the time ice vest, and just trying to keep your core body temperature down as long as you can before the start. And
Mm-hmm.
then sometimes in the race also taking dump bottle or ice socks when you go through the feed zone. So it's a pretty like technical section where you have staff members there who are feeding you.
Mm-hmm.
So beforehand, you organize your bottles and the fluid that you're taking. And for me, that's always a carb and electrolyte mixture.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you decide to also give your staff like a gel to hand to you, you can do that too. But for me, I like to keep my food on me
Mm-hmm.
because there's already so much happening when you go through the feed zone. And it's not like an endurance race where you're carrying like 10 gels in your pocket. I'm just taking like three or so.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And with the gels and with a course, I imagine it's probably different based off of every course terrain, but timing when you can sip or take the gel, I imagine is important. And finding that right spot where you feel safe doing that. Where's like the typical section of the course for you where you feel comfortable reaching for the bottle or trying to open a gel? What kind of section on a course are you looking for to do that?
Yeah, it depends every course, but that's something that we definitely check out before, like during the week before the race, we are pre-riding the track and getting to know it. And that's definitely something I try to think about when I'm pre-riding the course, to
Mm-hmm.
figure out like where are the best places to fuel, because it can be super challenging, and
Yeah.
sometimes the sections are like just a few meters long, where you're like, okay, this is the only section where I can grab my bottle, take a
Mm.
quick drink, and put it back. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's really challenging, but something I definitely think about beforehand, and that kind of plays into also the mental preparation for the races. So
Mm-hmm.
like just trying to plan out and think through everything I can. So in the race, it's already like, I'm not thinking or worrying about the drink, because I've already thought about that before. And
Mm.
it depends with every track. Like for sure, when you go through the feed zone, it's a great time to take something, because everyone's usually getting a feed at
Mm-hmm.
that time. But yeah, it just depends.
Wow. And with the feed zones, grabbing bottles, is that something where, based off of the lap duration, are you grabbing a full bottle or a smaller bottle based off of maybe not needing a full bottle for the lap to save on weight? Or how are you thinking about
Yeah,
that?
yeah, for sure. I'm always taking at most half a bottle, because
Mm-hmm.
I really just don't like, maybe there's three times during the lap that I drink.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, between like a quarter to a half bottle.
Yeah.
But then, I'm grabbing one every lap. So yeah, you definitely don't I don't think a lot of riders like fill the bottle all the way,
Mm-hmm.
because you are passing the feed zone so many times.
Yeah, that's convenient. And that's nice that you're able to do that. And I think about the people doing those like 100-mile and 200-mile gravel races and like not wanting to stop at water and just carrying like who knows how much weight on their back in fluids is, yeah, it's quite a feat. So it's nice to
Yeah,
have
it's
that, I
wild.
imagine. So, what was one of your biggest challenges, do you think, from this 2023 year, whether mentally, physically, nutritionally? Was there something that kind of got you and stuck out?
Yeah, I think that it was kind of just an overarching challenge with, like I said, joining a new team, a European team, and for the first time racing a full World Cup calendar. So I was met at the beginning of the year like with all of these really new things to me. It was a new bike, new equipment. Um, the team was based in Europe, so I was like, okay, that I had spent was going to spend more time in Europe, which
Mm-hmm.
for me it really works well for me. But
Mm.
yeah, just kind of, especially in the first like 6 months of the year, I want to say, just adjusting to all these new things, new
Mm-hmm.
management, new structure, and they were all really good, but it was new.
Yeah.
And as an athlete, like I feel like we're all so used to like learning the way it's going to work and learning the people around us and our staff and our coaches. And then like we're really hooked into that. So when
Yeah.
things change, it can really throw an athlete off.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was yeah, just a kind of an ongoing challenge throughout the beginning of the year,
Mm-hmm.
until I felt like I really got my groove and I was really feeling good on the new bike and feeling like, yeah, it wasn't so new anymore. But I think that that comes with everything, any kind of big change like that for any athletes. And
Yeah.
yeah, that was definitely a challenge that I didn't see it as a challenge in the moment. It was all really good and really exciting for me. But looking back, I realized like the beginning of my season wasn't really as I expected it to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always kind of thinking like trying to point it to something. But I think it was just, so much new, so much to adjust to. And that takes a lot of extra
Yeah.
energy from the athlete. And yeah, you just have to kind of learn it and take the time. So yeah.
That makes sense. And are you learning a different language at all, or did you already know some French or anything like that?
Yeah, so everyone speaks English on the team. But yeah, it's definitely French, and the majority of the riders are French. Um, but I was trying to learn French. I was really committed,
Yeah.
and I definitely lost my momentum a little bit. I don't have any background in French. I
Okay.
I learned Spanish in school,
Hmm.
and I spend a lot of time training in Spain now. So I'm at this like I'm conflicted because I want to work on my Spanish and I also want to work on my French.
Yeah.
And I think I should just focus on one thing, and then maybe the other thing will come a little easier. We'll see.
Yes. Yeah. Did you do like try any like of the, was it Duolingo app or anything like that?
Yeah, I was actually working with a tutor
Oh,
um,
wow.
in the beginning of the year, and I mean it just it takes commitment for
Yes.
sure.
Yeah. Goodness.
So
Yeah. It's another thing on your plate to try and, yeah, learning another language is not easy. That's for sure. So
yeah, for sure. But I do pick up a lot when I'm with the team,
I bet.
with their like speaking French. So I've definitely noticed that like I can understand more, but
Mm,
speaking it, I mean, you have to know how to speak it, but then you also have like to have the confidence to talk, which
yes.
is difficult when you're
Yeah.
surrounded by a bunch of French.
Oh man. Oh, that's
They're
funny.
supportive.
That's good. That's always helpful. When you joined the new team, did they, out of curiosity, did they kind of, is there you mentioned the staff component. Is there a sports dietitian or a nutritionist on staff at all with that team?
Yeah, no, not on staff with us. We do have Stefan Tempier,
Okay,
retired pro cyclist who is has taken the role of sport director with us. So
cool.
he is such a good like wealth of knowledge, and he's always sharing his experience from racing. And we're pre-riding the courses with him, which is really nice to just
Awesome.
have like some lines to see in the beginning and the first
Yeah.
kind of look on course. But yeah, everyone kind of focuses on their nutrition independently of the team.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And as we get into postseason, when did your postseason, do you even call it postseason, or do you call it off season, or what do you call it? And when did it start, or when does it start?
Yeah. Well, I guess I kind of call it off season,
Mm.
but it's so funny because I feel like the season is so long now, and especially in the last, like this year, next year, and it's been kind of like a compacted Olympic cycle too.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, like we started racing in February, and then I just finished in the end of October. So
Wow.
I took my off season after we raced the final World Cup in Mont Saint Anne, and then I raced a kind of marathon style race in Bentonville called Little
Oh,
Sugar,
fun. Yeah.
and that was just kind of a fun one. And then we took our break, and yeah, I took like 3 weeks off the bike, and
Mm-hmm.
then kind of started doing stuff again, some rides, some
Yeah.
hikes, some, some of everything. And
Mm-hmm.
then now I'm kind of back into real training. But yeah, it that's kind of how it goes.
Yeah. Do you feel like with the 3 weeks, is that something where are you excited for that 3 week break, like off the bike mentally and physically? Like, is it feel like it's well needed, or and then by the end of it, are you excited to get back on the bike? Or how do you mentally approach that? Or is it something where you're like, I'm gonna lose fitness?
Yeah, it's definitely like it's been a challenge in the past. It's funny, I think this season it felt so intense
Mm,
because pretty much every race was a really high priority race and a
mm,
really high level race. So there was a lot of preparation and focus and stress that came
yeah,
around every competition. And it was a long season. I mean, we were
yeah.
racing World Cups from May until October.
Wow.
But at the same time, I feel like I structured my season really well, that by the end of it, I was honestly like really excited to
Hmm.
ride my bike still. And
Yes.
I remember that last year at this time, I was not, it was very much the
Mm,
opposite, and I was ready to take a break.
yeah.
But I think, the body can also only handle so much. And the body was telling me towards the end of the year that like I really needed to take a break
Mm,
off the bike. So
yeah.
um, yeah, it's wild. And this year, yeah, it's definitely a struggle sometimes, like letting go of that fitness and that focus of being so like turned on in race mode
Hmm.
so much, and then just like letting that all go.
Hmm.
But this year, my body, I didn't really have a choice because I actually got sick for all of my off season.
Oh,
And
wow.
I think it's just like the body just knows. And when you let your guard down and just you know like just relax a bit, I
Hmm.
think just everything comes in. So
Yes.
it
Shoot.
happens.
Yeah. It can be a blessing in disguise, I think, sometimes too. I had a client recently and he was like feeling all these like injuries going on, and then he got sick, and now he's like starting to feel better, and he's like, yeah, my knees don't hurt, my shoulder doesn't hurt. Like, it gave his body some time to recover and repair because he was just training so hard. But yeah, it can hit you.
Mm-hmm.
I know exactly what you're talking about. So as you kind of like get back into training, is it being structured right now by your coach, or is it still kind of like ride when you want to ride and to how you feel, or how is that being structured?
Yeah, for me, it started, I mean, to start with, I just kind of ride when I want to for however long I want to.
Hmm.
I'm also running right now, so I do a few runs.
Yeah.
But I actually like I ask my coach for structure because that's just how I work.
Yeah.
And it's funny, like the first week that I'm back training,
Hmm.
I'm like asking him like, I don't care if I just have like, easy rides, unimportant rides, but I'd like you to like write it out for me. And
Yes.
it's just how I work. And he's like, you're the only athlete I have that is getting structure right now. And I'm like, well, that's just how I work. And
Yeah.
it's
I,
funny because my partner is totally different.
oh,
Uh,
really?
so yeah.
That's funny. I totally get though what you're saying, because I think too some people they'll push it too hard, right? Coming back from a break if they don't have that structure saying, "Hey, only go for a 30-minute run or a, 90-minute zone 2 or, something like that." And they might take it a little too hard. How with your postseason, that kind of break period, that 3 weeks off, granted you were sick, but how do you think about, or do you not think about nutrition when you go into the postseason? Is that something where are you changing anything intentionally, or is it more just like eating to how you feel? What is that typically like for you?
Yeah, typically it's just eating how I feel.
Mhm.
I mean, for the first time, especially after such an intense season where I'm so focused and maybe you're like, I mean, for sure I'm hyper focused on my nutrition,
Yeah.
especially around these key events. And it takes a lot of energy. So the off season is like a super important time to not think about
Yeah.
that for me. Like really not thinking about nutrition
Yeah.
at all, and just eating whatever I want to.
Yeah.
It's super key for me because you have to let your body, yeah, kind of get back to that homeostasis
Hmm.
and like recuperate and really heal from the season. So
Yeah.
yeah, in the beginning it's just totally relaxed, and then I think it kind of comes naturally. It's funny. I've been, getting back into training and especially being sick, like
Hmm.
literally doing nothing for 2 or 3 weeks,
Yeah.
and then starting to like just move and ride and just be active again. I'm noticing like, it just comes naturally. Like I'm hungry. I need more fuel, or
Hmm.
I've been noticing myself like craving more salt as I
Mm.
start riding, which is,
Yep.
I mean, I think I'm just like hyper tuned into what my body
Totally.
is craving, but
Yeah.
yeah, just things like that. I think it just comes back naturally. And sometimes when you're in the off season, you're wondering like, you know, like when will I get like start being hungry all the time again, but
Mm.
it comes quick.
Yes. Yeah. We had Payson McAlvin on recently, and he was saying how he like intentionally gains weight during the postseason because he knows once he starts ramping up his training, like he physically cannot eat the necessary calories to support his training volume that he needs to pull from his like body fat stores. So he will intentionally gain weight, which I think is nice to hear, because I feel like I hear a lot of people trying to, not professionals, for my clients, trying to keep this like race weight through postseason, which I don't think is realistic. Or keep the fitness fully there through postseason. And yeah, I think that's another stress like
Mm-hmm.
on your system, right? With the craving of the salt, it makes me think too, hydration products, sports nutrition products. Are you in this kind of time period where you're ramping things back up? Are you intentionally focusing on utilizing sports fueling products during your sessions right now? Or do you try and minimize that and focus more on like real food stuff? Or maybe it's not necessary for based off the session duration?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it definitely becomes necessary quite quick as
Mm,
like, you start doing longer rides or your first interval session. I work with the feed, so I
mm,
get all my nutrition products through them,
nice.
and it's a really great resource to be able to choose different products, different brands, and
Mm-hmm.
try what works for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm pretty quick to go back to, like and this kind of helps me get back into the mindset and the rhythm and the routine of training, just
Mm-hmm.
going back to what I liked and what I was enjoying in the season last
Yeah.
year, so or a few months ago. So
Yeah. Nice.
um yeah, definitely incorporating um like hydration products and bars and stuff like that. I do make during the off season, especially when I'm like doing more like longer endurance rides. I love making rice cakes.
Oh, yeah.
And so that's like a really, yeah, just like kind of a fun, nice thing to fuel with. It's different than just opening another bar or
Yeah.
eating a gel. I try to take a little bit of a break from gels just
Yes.
because it's just good for
Yes.
for my
Yeah.
mind.
Goodness. Yeah.
um,
What's your go-to? rice cake recipe?
I've actually been enjoying this new one that has like tahini and
Oh,
soy sauce,
yum.
vinegar, maple syrup. It's like a savory one.
Nice.
So it's
Yeah.
so hard to find a savory bar. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like sometimes I just get sick of there's like the sweet, just
Yeah.
sugary products. So it's a nice one that's savory. So it's fun to mix in there.
That's a good mix. You said vinegar too. That the acidity too kind of can help sometimes like definitely breaks the sweet flavor for sure, right? And gives like a different flavor profile in the mouth. And the salt from the soy sauce is always good.
Mm-hmm.
And then what other products do you like to use with regards to hydration or like bars and stuff like that?
Yeah, I have been for training, I really love the Scratch Hydration lemon lime
Yeah.
mixture. I use Never Second C30 mixture
Oh yeah.
for racing, but
Mm-hmm.
um I like it because it's just it's really easy on my stomach. I never have any problems, and so I
Awesome.
just use it all the time for racing. But the flavor can kind of be there isn't much flavor, it's just kind of sweet.
Mm-hmm.
So I really like the Scratch hydration for training, and I never really get sick of that.
That's great.
And then I love Liquid IV. Makes a really good hydration packet that I
Mm,
use like not necessarily when I'm on the bike, but it's great like when I'm off the bike, and especially
yeah.
in the winter. It's really hard to hydrate and drink
Mm,
because like I don't want to drink just water or something
yeah.
cold, you know? So I love mixing that in my water, or just like drinking. I drink a lot of tea
Yeah.
during like the winter months.
Nice.
Um, and then, yeah, gosh, a lot of bars. I've been loving this new one on the feed called, it's by Sturker, and they
Oh, I
make
just
like
had
this
someone tell me
chocolate
about.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's super high concentration of carbs. I think it's like
Mhm.
50 grams per bar.
Yeah.
And it's one of my favorites. I love it.
Awesome.
So yeah, those are some of my favorites right now.
That's great. Yeah, I saw that brand pop up on there. I gotta test them out. How do you pronounce it?
I think it's Sturker. I might be totally butchering it,
Okay.
but yeah,
But
I
it's
want to
like
say it's like a
Styrker or something like that, right?
yeah.
Yeah. We'll link it in the show notes for
Okay.
the listeners. Um, okay, I want to be mindful of your time. So I do want to, well, I have one more question with regards to like the off season with recovery wise. And then we can go into our listener questions. But my one final question for you, the off season, was regards to kind of recovery in general. Granted, yes, you said you were sick and resting, but do you do anything specific with regards to goodness, like keeping joints and muscles strong? So whether it's like mobility or prehab or rehab, do you do any of that kind of yoga? Who knows what any of that stuff in the postseason too? Or I know some people add in a bit more strength maybe this time of year as well. Is that anything you do as well?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And it's funny actually, like during when I took my break from the bike and got sick and everything just like kind of happened, stopped doing like the mobility and like
Mm.
stretching because I feel like I kind of associate that with training, but
Mm-hmm.
I realized that like my body just craves that stuff, and
Yeah.
it's actually not really like I don't really associate it with training. Like I think that my body just likes that and feels better
Mm-hmm.
with it. So I've definitely brought back the mobility and especially like when I start training, it's necessary. Like
Yeah.
there's no arguing there, but for sure also when I'm not training, it's also really nice. But
Yeah.
um yeah, so mobility, stretching, I think it's just a really important part for me to incorporate, especially as I start like putting load on my body again and
Mm-hmm.
putting hours on the bike. It's just necessary to keep to feel good and keep healthy and yeah, especially as you're like starting to build back that strength that you
Yeah.
lost. So yeah, all of that stuff, and now is also a really nice time to kind of like um, reconnect with it and like
Mm-hmm.
reset your routines and stuff because I think
Yeah.
throughout the year is long, the season is long, and it's hard to keep up with that because for me, like my stretching routine can take like an hour to an hour and a half every day. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot. So it's nice to kind of to reconnect with that.
Yes. Yeah. I totally hear you. Me and my husband, we started doing, we call it Stretchy Sunday. And I thought we were just going to be in the gym for like 15 minutes stretching. And like, I checked my thing and I'm like, oh my gosh, we were here for 75 minutes stretching, like, and doing mobility work. And we didn't even hit the whole body. We were just doing like the hips and legs. So it's, yeah, there's quite a bit to be done and it can be a bit added to your plate. That kind of ties into one of our listener questions, which was or is, how do you maintain self-discipline? And I imagine maybe this is around training, but mobility or even nutrition potentially.
Yeah, that's a good question. And honestly, I've really always been super self-motivated. Like from the time that I started training and started racing, I was just like, I mean, in the sport, it's not a team sport. So you have to be personally motivated. And
Mm-hmm.
there's days when it's cold and it's windy. Like today, it was super windy. I think
Mm-hmm.
there's rain coming or something.
Yeah.
And I went out on the coast and just like headwind all day.
Oh
It was just
gosh.
kind of a
Yeah.
brutal day.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, like there's definitely days when I'm not motivated and it's
Yeah.
not the most enjoyable. But I think that I used to kind of as a bad thing and be like, oh no, like am I not motivated to do this anymore?
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's just been like, that happens and everyone has days like that. And it's always worth it for me.
Yeah.
But it's a hard question to answer because I feel like I've always just had the self discipline.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a big part of what's helped me get to where I am. So
That's awesome. Yes, good. Well, I think that's a good answer. Next question from our listener is, what supplements do you take, if any?
yeah, I take the feed has a athlete formula that
Oh, nice.
um they have. So it
Mhm.
has I think like a multivitamin, vitamin D, and omega-3. And I take that. I take a break during the off season. I think it's
Yeah.
just nice to like give your body a break from all the supplement stuff. But yeah, I take that pretty much all the time. And zinc, which
Hmm.
kind of helps with just like overall immune system support.
Yeah.
And then in the season, I supplement with beta alanine, and
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty much it, I think.
Nice. With the beta alanine, I know that's one that we've talked to a lot of our athletes about, and I know Peter Stetna says it's like one of his like tried and true supplements. How far out do you start that, or do you just take it daily, or just pre-race? How do you structure your beta alanine typically?
Yeah, I typically start it about like 15 to 30 days before I start my competition season. So,
Mm-hmm.
or like my first race.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to remember now. It's funny. It's like when you finish the season, I seem to just like forget
Yeah.
everything I
Take a
do.
break. Yes.
Um, but I think I do like 1,500 milligrams
Mm-hmm.
um, starting think starting twice a day, and
Mm-hmm.
then for like that loading phase, and
Mm-hmm.
then I think that's like a 30-day loading phase, and then just 1,500 milligrams per day, so like one dose per day instead of twice a
Yeah.
day.
Nice. And do you try and time it pre-workout particularly or?
Yeah, I just do it like when I take my other supplements, so normally
Mhm.
it's in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. That's it. I mean, beta alanine is one of the ones that it's like creatine. There's so much research on it that just keeps showing benefits. So it's definitely one of the ones that's been proven. Choose a safe supplement, listeners, if you choose a beta alanine, or check out the feed. I'm sure there's a third party tested. And then let's see, another question we had was what has been your favorite kit style slash theme?
Okay. um well, actually, I that's a good question. um So when I'm like in the off season, when, you know, at the races, like, or when I'm training normally, you know, you're full like jersey and
Yeah.
kit. But honestly, like the most comfortable I feel on a bike is with bibs
Mm.
and like a loose t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
Because, and it's funny, like my boyfriend Cole and I always make a joke because maybe it like looks kind of funny because not a lot of people dress like that, but
Yeah.
we always say like, I'm going for comfort today. So if we're
Yeah.
going on like a mountain bike ride, everyone's like wearing their baggies.
Mm.
But I think baggies are uncomfortable,
Yeah.
like especially over the bibs. So
Yeah.
I just get rid of those and I wear a t-shirt. And I
There
think
you
that's
go.
like maximum comfort is what we always say. But
Well, that's great. Meet them halfway with the baggies.
yeah, exactly.
Well, that's good. Okay, our next question is how do you convert endurance training into cross-country training?
Good question. Gosh, I don't know if I'm the person like to ask about
Yeah.
these things, but it's funny. I've actually my boyfriend Cole again, he used to race cross country World Cup with me, and
Mm.
he has transitioned to endurance and marathon racing. So
Hmm.
I've seen like firsthand our training has changed so much because it used to be pretty similar.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and now it's just so completely different because he's doing like, you know, just 6 hour, 7 hour days at zone two. And
Wow.
I go out for like short rides where I'm hitting 195 heart rate like every other day.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
so it's super different. But yeah, I think that, what the question was transitioning endurance into XC.
Yeah, converting endurance training into XC training.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, for me, it's really important to keep a variety of training in my or a variety of workouts in my training. So I still have that endurance, but I don't do a ton of endurance.
Mm.
And I really keep a lot of high intensity workouts, sprint sessions, like on off sessions in there, just to always be like working that high intensity. So
Yeah.
I think it's like a mixture of both keeping some endurance, but really like making sure you're hitting a lot of that high intensity because that's how we race.
Yeah. Yeah. Fast, short and fast, or shorter and fast. Okay. And then we had our question about the Rockrider, which you already answered. And then our final question is how often are you craving sweets and how do you manage to keep it for the right amount?
Good question. I am a huge sweet tooth,
Oh.
so I'm craving sweets a lot of the time.
Yeah.
And I love baking. I love going back to like making your own nutrition or
Mm.
ride food. I love like experimenting or just making cookies and, you know, having an excuse to make ride food when you're
Yeah.
actually just making cookies.
That's awesome. That's
So
great.
yeah, I mean, gosh, I don't really think about limiting that. I think yeah, it's definitely like something that I like, and
Mhm.
I eat it when I want to.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important to do, especially yeah, I feel like in sport about like you shouldn't eat this, you shouldn't eat that, but
Mm.
yeah, just and give your body what it's craving. If it's at in like a healthy
Yeah.
um, you know, amount or yeah, way.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's really important.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you're craving the cookies and stuff, I mean, timing it around your rides or during your rides too. I mean, that can be more ideal to get those quick digesting sugars during the workout, I imagine too. So that's always
Yeah,
handy.
I think it's also some might say like if you're craving it all the time, maybe there's a lack of something else in your
Mm.
diet, like
Hmm.
quality fat or protein,
Hmm.
or carbs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that maybe like if you feel like you're craving it more than other people or more than usual, maybe you're lacking something where you
Yeah.
could be like incorporating more healthy fats into your diet or stuff
Hmm.
like that. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm definitely a
Yeah.
sweet tooth. So
I think you're spot on there though. I mean, definitely when we've had clients come to us and they're craving a lot of sweets and then we look at their diet. They're not getting really a whole lot of like real food carbs, so they might be missing out on the oatmeal and the sweet potatoes and, beans and things of that nature. They're just not getting real food carb sources. So yeah, your body's craving carbs, and cookies could be a quick way to get all of those in. Like that's equivalent to a couple sweet potatoes maybe. So check your daily carb intake too for if someone is craving all that stuff. Okay, so I'll circle back to your two truths and a lie. So we had that you pierced your own ears, you were homeschooled, and you love roller coasters. I said you were not homeschooled. Which one was the lie?
So I do not love roller coasters,
Really?
actually. Yeah.
Okay.
But I was homeschooled and I did pierce my own ears.
Wow. How old were you when you did that?
I don't know. I was trying to remember that. I think like 12 or something.
Wow.
I loved that movie. I can't remember, but like they're twin sisters. I want to say it was like it was called Twin Sisters or something. I don't know. I'm
Okay.
probably super wrong, but they went to like summer camp and then they pierced each other's ears with like the apple
Oh, I can totally picture this.
the ice cube. Yeah, I don't
Yes.
know what it's called, but it's like a super popular movie. I don't know. I'm
Yeah.
terrible with movie names. But yeah, I was really inspired, so I tried it.
Oh my goodness. Was your parents pissed or were they
I
okay with
don't think
it?
so. I
Yeah.
mean, I think they were like kind of shocked that I was doing it. And now I think I have like they're really off.
Oh,
Like one is way lower.
yeah. Oh well.
But
Oh
I've
well.
totally forgotten about it. And then I was
Yeah.
trying to think of two truths and a lie.
Yeah. Perfect. Those are great ones. And what's coming up for you in 2024?
So a big year again, and we have the Olympics, so that's a big goal for me. And
Awesome.
the kind of final Olympic qualifiers are early in the season. So we have
Okay.
the first two in April,
Okay.
actually, which are the first two World Cups of the
Wow.
year. So those are two really big focuses for my early season.
Awesome.
And yeah, it's we're right back into it so quick.
Yeah.
It's already in April. So
Yeah.
yeah, really big year, but a big focus on qualifying for
Awesome.
Paris.
That's exciting. Go back to France and have your French skills maybe by that French or Spanish, whichever one. Awesome. Where can people find you, follow your journey?
Well, best place to follow me is probably Instagram. I'm the most active there. I'm Savilia Blunk, pretty easy. And then if you want to also join my nutrition club on the feed, I'm
Nice.
gonna be being more active on it and sharing more products I'm using with people who join. And I think you get like some feed credit and some percentage off or whatever.
Awesome. We'll get that link from you and we'll include it in the show notes for the listeners. And thank you again so much for joining us. This has been awesome.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.